Hi, I'm Sarah. This is Coyote Tarot, and this is my VR to 3 Fat Readers How I Tarot. Insert musical intro, which I still have not figured out. So originally I actually did film a video that I was going to tag my tarot story. I don't know if there's an original tag for that. I was just going to hashtag my tarot story. I filmed it, the whole works. This was about 2 months ago, and I couldn't get it to upload. It just wasn't uploading on the software that I had. So I was like, you know what, maybe now's not the time. That was supposed to be my first ever YouTube video, and then my first video ended up being the hashtag only 10 decks. So here we are. I was actually watching Tarot with Ruby, her YouTube channel, and she had this 3 Fat Readers VR for How I Tarot. And it's essentially what I was trying to do in my tarot story, just way better. So I'll try and link Tarot with Ruby's link and the 3 Fat Readers original, which I think is a couple years ago now. It's an older VR. So I'm really late to this party, but I think this is an ongoing one that people can join as they join the tarot community, the YouTube, what is it? UTarot? No, TarotTube? UTarot? So there is, how many questions we got here? There's 13 questions on here. I'll try and put them in the description box as well, so you can kind of follow along if you forget what the question was, because that's something I would do. So here we go. Question number 1. What sparked your interest in tarot? So when I was a kid, I mean, my tarot, don't get me wrong, my tarot journey really just started a little over a year ago. But when I was a kid, my sister was dabbling in Wicca and whatever else. I'm not even sure, to be honest. I was so young. I didn't really know what was going on, except that that's what she was into. And she got a tarot deck. I knew she had a tarot deck. I wouldn't have been able to tell you anything about it, except for the fact that a few months back I found it. It was in my box of child stuff, so I think I confiscated it from her. She abandoned it, I believe, and I found it. So this was about a year and a half ago. I found it in my kid box, and I started going through it, and I was like, I'm going to learn this. But it was a Marseille deck, and it just didn't click with me. So this is the box that it comes in. I am using my light, so it'll probably reflect off stuff. It came with a book as well, which gives the Marseille and and a bunch of other stuff as well. I have not read this book yet. I plan to, but it gives now this one is making a liar out of me. The Marseille and the Rider-Waite-Smith interpretations of the photos. They're just little black and white photos. Oh, it appears at the beginning they do it. Here's an example. So this was published in 1994, and it has a bunch of interesting information. Now I'm getting sidetracked because I want to read it. But like I said, it's a Marseille deck, and I just don't, Marseille is not my thing. It's not something that I click with or resonate with. I don't really understand the art as much as I would understand. Like, I really don't do pip decks that well. And that's what happened here. I'm going through the major arcana in this deck. I was just kind of flipping through it when I found it. But then I got to like this business. I was like, what? What's that? I have no idea what's happening here. And then I found that the swords and the wands were just confusing to me. I was getting them mixed up. So I abandoned this deck and went and started looking into my own tarot decks. But I do love the backs. So yeah, that's from 1994. And so what happened also about a year and a half ago, after I found this deck, I learned about oracle decks. So I started dabbling with oracle decks, and I told myself I would never do tarot because it scared me. And then all of a sudden I bought a tarot deck. I bought the Wild Unknown. That was my first tarot deck that I purchased. I had read some or watched some tarot YouTube tarot videos about it, and it was kind of like 50-50. Some people said it was a good beginner deck, and some people said it wasn't a good beginner deck, but I had the Oracle card version and loved it. So I was like, I'm doing it. I'm buying her tarot deck, and if it has to sit there for a few months until I decide what I'm doing with it, then fine. But it was like 40% off, so I bought it. Turns out it's not a good deck for beginners, and I ended up with the Rider-Waite-Smith. But so that's my what sparked my interest in tarot. I guess when I was a kid, it would have been my sister who kind of got me into it. So question number 2, do you only use tarot in your readings, or do you add in other forms of divination? So I use oracle cards as well. I have ordered a set of runes from a woman off of Etsy, or a person off of Etsy, and I will be doing an unboxing when I get those in. I am incredibly excited to get those, and I'm excited to learn about runes. I have no idea. My sister had them when I was a kid. I remember her bag of runes as well. And someone told me to stay away from them. I can't remember if it would have been my parents or my sister herself, but that they were scary, whatever. So now I'm going to have my own set. Very excited. Question number 3, are you a psychic or a card reader? Definitely a card reader. I'm really good at reading people, but I would not say that that makes me psychic. I'm really observant, and I pick up a lot of things that probably most people don't pick up, but I would not say that I'm psychic at all. I'm definitely a card reader. Question number 4, do you use tarot for anything other than readings? So display cards or meditation cards, that kind of thing. Tarot cards, no. Oracle cards, yes. I have one of Ethany's behind me here that I'm working with for the month of December. But other than that, no. With a tarot card, it's just oracle cards that I use for like display. Question number 5, have you ever taken a break from tarot, and why? I wouldn't call it a break. I used to pull a card for myself every single morning. And then I found that I wasn't even like lunchtime would come and I couldn't even remember what card I had pulled. So I was like, okay, if you can't do this and pay attention to it, then don't do it at all. So I decided to not do that anymore. So that was back in April. I stopped doing that. Now I leave one tarot deck and one oracle deck on a table beside my bed. And if I get the urge to pull a card in that day, I will do it. And I will leave the card face up on top of the deck. So every time I walk by, I see it. Whereas before I would pull the card and I would like put it away. So it wasn't there to remind me or encourage me to think about what that card would mean for me throughout the day. So I still don't do every day. It's occasionally at this point. So not technically a break, but I stopped pulling a card a day. Question number 6, if you could live in any tarot from the Rider-Waite-Smith, which would it be? So there was a few that definitely stood out to me, a couple more than others. So I'm going to do my one main one and throw in some honorable mentions. Once I got to this card, as I was flipping through them, considering what was happening, I was like, that's it. This is it. This is me. My 9 of Pentacles. I just love that she is this independent woman. She's got her achievements, she's on her own. She's confident. She is ready for anything. I just like that. Honorable mentions would be the Magician. I love that he has all of his tools, or this individual has all of his tools, and he is ready to start manifesting and start working with his tools. And then the 2 and the 3 of Wands. I do really like both of those. So those are honorable mentions, but it's the 9 of Pentacles for me. 7. Do you use tarot in a predictive way? Do you predict the future? Oof. This one was tricky. It still is tricky for me to answer it. The way that I see tarot is that it gives you a heads up of potential outcomes, or this could happen if, and that if depends on the situation. If you continue on the path that you're going down, or whatever the case may be. That being said, I don't I'm going to have to say no, they don't. I don't read them in a predict the future kind of way, because you make decisions every day that change your course of action or change the outcome of multiple things. And, if you get a tarot reading, you can still say, well, I don't like that outcome, so I'm going to handle this situation this way instead. And that would change everything. So I don't think it predicts the future. I think it's just a heads up. I use tarot in more of a self-care way, like what you can do for yourself kind of thing. Not so much in a what you have coming for you kind of thing. Question number 8. Intuitive, rote, classic, modern, or mix? I'm not 100% certain I understand this question. So one of the things, like when I was watching the 3 Fat Readers, was, do you memorize textbook definitions? So it's a bit of a mix, I would say. I definitely try to memorize the meanings of the cards. I personally feel that for myself, knowing the meanings of the cards is step 1 to being a good tarot reader. You can also use your intuition and go by what's happening in the pictures, which I also do. Sometimes the textbook definition, like I'll be looking at something and I'm like, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't seem right with what's happening in this spread. So I'll go with my intuition or whatever happened to pop into my head when I flip that card over. I will take other things into consideration, like I will take the textbook meaning into consideration and I'll mull it over in my head, but most of the time it's like, no, I'm going to go with my initial gut feeling. And if I don't get a gut feeling, or if it is the textbook meaning that comes to me, then that's what it is. So I'm not entirely sure what rote is, or necessarily classic, or I don't really know what these things are, but that's my answer. Question number 9. What are your most consistent tarot habits? I'm still a newbie. I've been doing tarot for just over a year. And as far as consistent tarot habits go, the way that I would probably answer this question is to say I generally pull my tarot cards in the same spot. I don't do them at my work desk. I don't do them in bed. I do them sitting right here. This is kind of like my makeshift altar space. It's got all my stuff, all my books, all my cards are all within reach, all my different decks and everything. So this is generally where I sit. Not generally, it's where I sit. But I also try and do like a Palo Santo, smudging. That was a regular part of my tarot practice. However, I started to notice that my ceiling fan had this like black soot on the blades. So and my windows, oh my gosh, I washed my windows and the cloth was black from the soot in the air. So I have kind of switched to using like a protection spray instead. It smells fantastic. Doesn't leave a film over anything. So I generally do that before a reading as well, to just try and clear the juju. There are other things that I do, but I would not say they are consistent at all. I definitely shuffle. I'll usually start overhand and then riffle shuffle. I'm not opposed to the riffle shuffle, even with gilded edges and all that jazz. I like it. It's soothing. It's kind of like almost like a meditation part of the shuffle. I will usually ask the questions out loud. That's another fairly consistent thing. If it's a spread, I will say the spread questions out loud as I'm shuffling. I'll repeat them over and over again the whole time I'm shuffling. And then as I lay the cards, I'll put my hand down on the card and say what the meaning is or what that question is for that card, and do that for each card. Something else just popped into my head, and then as quick as it popped in, it left. So I don't know what that was. Yeah, it's gone. Number 10. Do you see tarot as a magical tool, a spiritual tool, a psychological or self-help tool, or something else, or all of the above? I definitely see it as a self-help tool. Maybe help is the wrong care, but like wrong care. Maybe help is the wrong word, but self-care is more where I see it. And also, what I find I use tarot for, I do full moon and new moon tarot spreads almost regularly, which I guess that's a consistent tarot habit. So I'll do those kind of spreads, but usually if I'm going to do something for myself, it's because I've got a gut feeling about something and I'm not sure if it's right. Usually they are. Or if I'm not sure how to handle a situation, that's kind of when I'll do it. As far as magical or spiritual, to be completely transparent, I'm not sure how I feel about spirits. I do my thing that I call into when I read tarot is the universe. The universe, I think, is just insanely powerful, and works in very mysterious ways. So that's what I believe in. So as far as a spiritual tool, yes and no, I guess. Magical, So probably more of the self-care, self-help, what direction should I go in, advice kind of column is more accurate. Question number 11, do you collect tarot decks? Why or why not? I'm not really sure what collect means, because I did hear something in a recent YouTube video that I watched where someone said they're not a tarot collector in the sense that they use all their decks. So if they buy one that's rare or more expensive, it's not like they keep it in its box and never touch it. So I'm not really sure what defines a collector. If I see a deck that I like, I buy it. I have way more than I need, in my opinion. But if an aesthetic calls to me, or if something screams at me that you have to have this deck, I buy it, but I definitely use it. There's not one deck in my collection that I don't use because it's special or was expensive or is a limited edition or anything like that. I also don't have any limited editions. 12. Do you have an aesthetic when it comes to the types of decks you enjoy? If so, what is it? So I feel like I would definitely be more drawn, I am definitely more drawn to modern decks. I'm trying to find a deck that is older that I like, but I'm struggling. So I think that is just a clear indication that I am into modern decks. I'm definitely not into fairies or angels or unicorns, stuff like that I'm not into. I do love animal decks, but I wish I had a broader range of aesthetic, but I wish I liked the Deviant Moon. I cannot get into the Deviant Moon at all. Sassarabito, I wish I liked that one. I can't. I've had Sassarabito in my cart in Etsy, I think multiple times, and I've taken it out because it just doesn't do it for me. And everybody loves it, even Deviant Moon. Everybody loves those decks. And they don't do anything for me. But I think that's part of the interesting part of tarot. Like when a deck speaks to me, that's why I buy it, because there are some that just work better with you, with your makeup, with your chemistry, I think. That's how I think it works anyway. But I should really not think that way, because that just means every time I see a deck that I like, I use that excuse to buy it. Well, it's speaking to me, so I'm going to buy it. So that's definitely something I should probably revisit. And last but not least, this is a bonus question. Do you personify your decks? No? I only really have one deck where I've done this for, and it is my Dark Mansion Tarot, and I just found it gave me very cheeky readings. Like, I found myself, every time I would do a reading, it was like, oh, thanks, no shit, Sherlock. Like, that was the kind of readings that that deck gives me. Other than that, no, they don't really have personalities. There's just some that I feel called to use at different times than others. And I think sometimes that has to do with my mood. Sometimes it has to do with the time of year that it is. Like right now being winter, probably more dull, either black or white in the winter would be where I would go to. And the spring and summer would be more bright colors, more vibrant, which is the same as bright. And then the fall would be more muted colors, maybe more earthy tone colors, that kind of thing. But personality wise, no, I don't really think I do that. And I don't know that I've really, I usually work with a different deck for every month. So the month of December would be one deck, January will be another. So maybe I'm not working with them long enough to allow that to happen. Although the Dark Mansion was just screaming at me. It's cheeky. So other than that one, no. So that's it. That's my VR to 3 fat readers via Tarot with Ruby, how I tarot. So again, it was a couple of years ago that this VR came out, so definitely late to this party, but why not? Why not join it? This is my tarot story and it just started, so I'm going to jump in and have some fun with this as well, and I hope everybody else does too, if you haven't already partaken in this VR. That's it for me. Hopefully I'll get my runes shortly so I can do my first ever unboxing. We'll see how that goes. And I will have my December roundup video, probably the first week in January. So I will see you then.